There you go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Where Are All the Women? I'm Meghan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing, Mary Lou?
I'm pretty good. Big day in turfdom.
Big, huge day.
Yes.
I mean, okay, I'm assuming that everyone who's watching is aware that Graham Linehan was arrested on Monday, I believe. He got off the plane at Heathrow Airport and was met by 5 armed police. Armed police, which
right.
If you're not from the UK, that's a big deal in the UK. This is the norm in America, but this is not the norm in the UK. And of course, he was arrested for the very serious crime of tweeting. Like, I'm smiling because I mean, like, it's so insane and horrible, but I have to say that I think it's a good thing because I think it's just gonna really, if we haven't already peaked the world, this is gonna be a major tipping point. I mean, it's completely ridiculous what he tweeted. I mean, no one should be arrested for a tweet unless it's a direct threat, a direct threat of violence or, murder. And that's definitely not what he tweeted. And what he tweeted was really, really like so innocuous.
Well, people are saying it was telling women to be violent against trans people, but it was telling women to fight back if perpy, predatory men are in their intimate spaces and won't leave, which is what we used to tell every girl and woman, like, get away, run. If you can't, punch him in the balls.
I mean, I want to find the tweets and read them to people for those who haven't seen what he was. This is what he was arrested for. There were 3 tweets. Sorry about my voice. I was singing karaoke last night. I don't think my voice has been normal for some time now because of all my karaokeing. So sounds bad, but trust me, it was worth it. The 3 tweets were, so one of them, there's a photo of a bunch of trans activists, and he says, a photo you can smell. Like some kind of like trans rally or something. So
right, and why is that a problem? He didn't say what it smells like.
Like, well, and what is it like? You're, first of all, you don't have the right, the Met, to interpret his tweet or joke to turn it into hate speech. I mean,
exactly.
Like, what if he was saying a photo you could smell and it was a compliment? Like, what if he was like, I bet all of those people smell really great. I bet they've all showered.
Right, totally. It's a projection of their own biases against this crowd to assume he means that it's an unpleasant smell.
Totally. It's like, well, you're assuming they smell bad then, huh?
Totally, exactly.
Take yourself to jail.
Okay, and the next one?
Okay, the next one was, I hate them, misogynists and homophobes. Fuck them.
All right, saying fuck them is now violence.
You're not allowed to hate misogynists and homophobes. Like,
well, not if they're men who say they're women.
But he doesn't even specify that. I mean, again, they're interpreting like this. This is so crazy. I can't even. It's hard for me to even talk about this because it's so insane. Like, it's not even. Again, like, I would never support anyone being arrested for tweets unless, again, it was some kind of direct threat of violence. But these tweets are so silly. Like, to interpret any of this as hate speech or a threat is ridiculous.
Well, and because the term hate speech is ridiculous. Like, he did say he hates them. So it literally is hate speech, but it's not something that should be criminalized. We have a right to hate people.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I know. Like, I have to like everybody.
I know.
The cops are going to enforce this.
Right. Right, exactly. So technically he
Like,
did
I would have been
engage.
arrested about like 500 times over by now if it was illegal to hate people.
Right, exactly. He did engage in an act of speech by posting on Twitter that expressed hate. And apparently, like, that is that illegal? I guess so. We're not allowed to say we hate anybody, or we just can't say we hate predatory, pervy men who pretend to be women, or who are so porn sick that they actually have narcissistically convinced themselves they are women and now are in our spaces. I think those are odious men worthy of hatred, but that's just my opinion on it.
That's your illegal opinion on it.
My legal opinion in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. No more going to London for you.
No.
Okay. And the third tweet says, this is probably the most egregious, but I completely agree with it. If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. I've made this argument many, many, many times over. Like, this is a crime, or it used to be a crime, for a man to go into a woman's change room or a girl's change room or a woman's washroom or something like that. Like, didn't that used to be a sex crime?
It's still a sex crime if the man says he's a man.
Right.
Like, it's still illegal for a man who doesn't say the magic words, I'm a woman, to walk in there. So if a man who just isn't playing that game and not pretending he's a woman is in there, women have a right to defend themselves against them. But as soon as he says he's a woman, it's suddenly a hate crime if we want to kick him out of there.
Well, okay, anyway, here's the rest of the tweet. So it says, if a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls.
Right, because he is abusing you. It's voyeurism. It's a violation of your boundaries. It's a threat to your safety, and women have a right to defend themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, someone in the comments, I can't tell if this is a man or a woman. Their name is
Who can tell these days?
Meghan and Mary Lou would have an aneurysm if trans people said to punch TERFs in the junk. If we get harassed in bathrooms, and let's not lie here. Okay, so are you?
So we would have had so
the
many
only
aneurysms?
People being harassed in bathrooms are, well, like, what is? I wonder if this person is talking about a man being in a woman's bathroom and being told to get out, if they're describing that as harassment, or if they mean it's like a man who is dressed like a woman in a men's washroom, and then he's getting harassed by a man who doesn't like men and women's clothing. Maybe you can help explain what you're talking about here. But also, like, when you say to punch TERFs in the junk, I mean, are you referring to men punching women? Because I mean, okay, I don't think I would have an aneurysm. No, I mean, the amount of times I've heard the term punch TERFs and the amount of death threats and threats of being punched and threats of violence that I've received for saying that men aren't women, you know, this doesn't give me an aneurysm anymore. I'd be dead like 10 years ago.
Exactly. We would have had countless aneurysms.
Like, what are you talking about? What do you think has been happening to me since like 2012?
Exactly. I mean, it's so crazy. And none of those people are getting pulled off of Twitter. Remember when those violent trans activists got a whole TERF, like pro-TERF violence exhibition at the public library in San Francisco, where they had, you know, displayed their bloody shirts that said punch a TERF, and then they had baseball bats wrapped in barbed wire saying that that's what they're going to use to hit TERFs with. And they were given a public art show promoting violence against women.
At the San Francisco library, they got a display of their barbed wire baseball bats and their direct violent threats to women who speak out in defense of women's spaces and women's rights.
Our tax dollars paid for them to say that we should be killed or have violence committed against us. No, if we were going to have an aneurysm every time trans activists threatened physical violence or told other people to be physically violent against us, we would not be here right now. Because
tell us if you're a man or a woman. I want to know if you're a man or a woman.
Oh, that person says that was based that men threaten to kill women. This is clearly someone who hates women, who is on the side of predatory men. It's interesting how upfront they are about it.
People, they think that, I mean, people are not going for this kind of thing anymore. They're not going for the threats against so-called TERFs. So
yeah,
you've become actually marginal. So your fantasy of being a marginalized, ignored, disrespected population has come true. So enjoy that fantasy becoming reality. I wanted to also add that I just interviewed Tristan Hopper, who's a journalist in Canada, and he just published a book about everything that's wrong with Canada. And he told me that he came to one of our turfy events in Victoria over on Vancouver Island last year, and he said that it was the highest security event that he'd ever been to in his entire life. It was a panel of 4 women speaking about women's rights and speaking against the sterilization and mutilation of kids, and speaking in defense of women-only spaces and women's sports. Linda Blade was there, Mia Hughes, and he was like, you guys had so much security, and the security was so intense. Like, he's like, I'm used to, if I'm ever at any kind of event, including whatever concerts, anything, the security is so lax. But our security, we had like people in the parking lot and people on walkie-talkies and like who's coming in and who's leaving and this is always the security that I have at every single event that I do. So this is the norm. So even when he was telling me this, I was like, oh really? Like, you've never been to another event like this? Because I'm so used to it. But it does sound crazy, I guess.
Well, and we can like show men and people who are moderately supportive pages and pages and pages of printouts of trans activists threatening violence against us, saying we should be killed, and they still don't understand why we would need that level of security at our events. Like, these are people threatening us with violence every chance they get, and saying we deserve every bit of violence we get because we don't believe men can turn into women and women can turn into men, and we feel that sex-based protections are based on your biological sex, not your self-declared gender identity, and that bathrooms should be segregated by sex because they are not gender confirmation stations. They are places where women are vulnerable to assault. And that's why men can't go in there, for our dignity and safety. And because of that, we should be killed. And we can show people, again, like countless thousands of threats, and they still don't view this as the violent movement and the incredibly abusive bullying movement it is.
Well, the left doesn't see violence as a bad thing if the violence is being perpetrated against their enemies. So it's not just in the trans behave in this way. Like, it's also okay to be violent towards people who support Israel. It's also okay to be violent against cops. It's also okay to be violent against Trump and Trump supporters. It's okay and when to be violent against probably pro-lifers. It's probably okay to be violent against anybody that is described as a racist according to whatever standards you've decided you're going by. Like, all of these people by the left are twisted into dangerous fascists, and their ideas and their words are reinterpreted as violence. So any violence against them is justified. That's the trick. So they use this within the trans movement also.
Totally. And come the revolution, if they fully get what they want politically, what we know from history is then they justify violence against the so-called bourgeoisie, which is the middle class and anybody who's self-employed and anyone who owns land. And this is what's happened again and again and again in so many countries when the left gets power and has a socialist or communist revolution. Yeah, they justify violence against everyone that they disagree with, who's everyone who's not aligned with their groupthink. And I'm not saying that the right wing has done, like, I don't want to live under Mussolini or Mao, right? Like, I don't want to live under a violent right wing government, but the left has a history of putting these thoughts into action, and it's been absolutely atrocious in Soviet Russia and Maoist China and Cuba, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Just to update everyone, in the comments says I'm literally a woman retard. So okay.
Is there a comma there?
I'm assuming that what she is saying is that she's a retarded woman, and I think based on her comments, it's accurate. So thanks for clarifying.
Thanks for clarifying.
Woman retard. For those watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe right now.
Yes, do it.
And if you want us to address your questions and comments, please use the super chat. I can't keep up with all the questions and comments here. So Graham recently moved to Arizona. I think specifically because he feared something like this happening.
Yeah.
He said, one of the reasons he's leaving the UK is because freedom of speech in the UK is in really bad shape at the moment. And I certainly know I would not be able to get anything on television in the UK. Not only that, but with police coming to people's houses for tweets, I think that the US is a good place at the moment. It seems to be somewhere that values freedom of speech, whereas the UK gave up on that a few years ago, very sadly. And the results, I'm afraid, are around for all of us to see now, quite literally.
Right. Well, this isn't the first time so many people have been arrested, but Graham was just on Rogan. He's getting a lot of buzz. This is a very public thing. It's getting a lot of press. It is, and we are reaching a tipping point. And if we want to pincushion that particular phrase to talk about the other thing that's happening in the last 24 hours with Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote The Tipping Point, that's another big turf event happening.
I mean, I'm not impressed by Malcolm Gladwell.
No, I'm not at all. But he's flipping over because of he said, like, now he's changed, he's able to say what he really feels because most people agree with that.
I mean, I don't
cowardly.
I saw some people tweeting, saying like good for him because he tweeted that he felt ashamed. I'm going to try to find the clip here to share with people. Sorry, I didn't realize we were getting there so quickly, but
oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I tweeted this clip actually, so let me find it and I can share that. I mean, so he was on a panel, or he moderated a panel in 2022 where they talked about men competing in women's sports, or trans people competing in women's sports, as he said in this recent interview. And I was like, okay, I mean, if you've really changed your mind about this and you're going to start telling the truth about this, can you tell the truth about it? And can you say men and women's sports? Because no one's talking about, or what we're talking about is not about trans people or trans athletes playing sports or trans athletes in women's sports. We're talking about whether men have the right to compete in women's sports or whether boys have the right to compete against girls in sport because they say that they're girls or women or female or whatever.
We're talking about males in female sport is what we're talking about.
So, and he didn't push back against the trans activist or trans activists on the panel who bullied everyone into agreeing that so-called trans women should be allowed to win in women's sports. Okay, I have the clip here. Let me see if I can share it with everyone. This always takes me a while. Okay.
If we did a replay of that exact panel at the Sloan Conference this coming March, it runs in exactly the opposite direction. And it would be, I suspect, near unanimity in the room that trans athletes have no place in the female category. I don't think there's any question. I just think it was a strange. The reason I'm ashamed of my performance at that panel because I share your position 100%, and I was cowed. The idea of saying anything on this issue, I was I believe in retrospect, in a dishonest way. I was objective in a dishonest way.
Oh, objective in a dishonest way. That's fascinating.
I mean, it's one thing, like in general, I don't have a ton of sympathy for people who are coming out now and saying, look, you were right. I'm sorry. I should have said something. But, you know, in some cases, I can be appreciative of that. And I appreciate apologies, you know, from on a personal level. But I don't accept apologies from journalists to that regard, because you're not doing your job. Like, you are not following, you know, journalistic standards, and you're lying. I mean, your job as a journalist or a reporter is to report the facts and to, you know, well, to challenge the state, the government. And so if the government is saying men are women if they say so, and you're reporting on these issues, I mean, it's your job to challenge the state on that. And yeah, like, I'm sorry, but I don't respect you. I don't take you seriously. And nobody, like, I honestly think that journalists who are calling men she in their reporting, journalists who are reporting on male perpetrators, predators, rapists, murderers, pedophiles, as though they're female because they identify as women, reporters who are reporting on, you know, men who are competing in women's sports as though they're women and calling them she and defending this. I think they all shouldn't have jobs. I think they should all be fired. Like, you're not doing your job. You're lying. Right. You're lying to the public, and your job is to tell the public the truth. So no, I don't forgive you. It's not, you know, if you were just some regular person, okay, fine. But you're being paid to do a job and you're not doing it. So no.
Yeah, I have no respect for journalists who continue to call men she and boys she in any context, even, you know, of course, not in the context of violence, but ever. Like, there's no group of men who are actually female. There's no group of boys who are actually female. I'm over it. Two, like, this was not an apology. It was a statement that he feels ashamed and a statement of victimization of himself. He didn't apologize to women. He didn't apologize to girls. He did not acknowledge the harm that has been done to women, women's college prospects, women's financial prospects. Like, men are winning money in competitions against women. This is psychological warfare against all women, to have to put up with this, to see these hulking men getting their medals next to these tiny women who look so demoralized. He didn't recognize or apologize for any harm done to this. I doubt he still sees any harm to women in it. He feels the tide turning, and he wants to get on the other side before well, it's still kind of a little bit cutting edge to do so, right? Or it appears to be, even though it's not. He's blowing in the wind.
I mean, I think he might genuinely feel bad, but I don't care. I mean, for him to say I felt scared, like, it's like, well, do you think that I didn't feel scared of getting murdered every time I spoke in public about this? Like, fuck you.
We all felt scared. This is the scariest thing I've ever gone up against. And I have had the FBI at my office with legitimate bomb threats over the abortion issue. Like, I've had that happen. I've gone up against really scary people on the right, in terms of people who have a history of killing physicians and abortion providers. Nothing I've dealt with in that realm has been as terrifying as going up against the trans activists. Like, these people are terrifying, and they have so much power. They can destroy women's livelihoods. They can destroy you socially. It's really, really scary. And frankly, I mean, I'm just ready to just say it. Like, this thing feels demonic to me. Like, the energy coming off of this, I've never experienced anything as just bone-chillingly terrifying as these creepy, deranged people who show up to protest us.
Yeah, they're evil and they're mentally ill, and they genuinely, and sadistic. I think that they genuinely get off on the idea of punching women or murdering women. I think it turns them on and excites them, which is just terrifying and creepy. And they're supported by the state and by the media and by most of our institutions.
Right.
Like, there's no accountability for what they say or do.
No, and if you complain about them, you're the problem. The left has no compassion for you. Every liberal will run cover for these violent, predatory men who, at the very least, enjoy intimidating and humiliating women. And many of them, I think, would love to do much worse.
Yeah. I mean, so I want to get back to the Graham Linehan stuff. The woman retard in the comments says, you literally said it's fine for Graham to threaten to kick people in the crotch if they are your enemies, you morons. You know, it's a double standard. Give us a break. So no, Graham isn't threatening to kick people in the crotch if they're his enemy or our enemy. He's saying that if there's a man in the woman's change room and he won't leave, that man is a threat and what he's doing is a crime and that's abusive. So I think you do have a right to defend yourself against predatory men. Do you agree, woman retard?
I think it's important to say the rest of the tweet that he says, first try to notify the authorities and do it through the official channels. And if no one's coming to help you, physically defend yourself against the predatory man who is in the female only space, which the Supreme Court of the UK ruled is illegal. Like, men are not allowed in there. So this man is committing a crime according to the recent ruling, and that he's advocating for self-defense against that predatory man.
I mean, I just wonder, anybody who would challenge that tweet or disagree with that tweet, are they saying that women shouldn't defend themselves if there's a predatory man in their washroom or change room?
Is Elle, who said she's literally a woman retard, is she willing to speak up? I wonder about what she thinks about that. Like, do women not have the right to self-defense?
I don't know. So we'll wait and see if I or Elle responds. So I just want to read what Graham Linehan wrote about his arrest and interrogation on his Substack, which is the Glinner Update. So he writes, the officer conducting it, the interrogation, asked about each of the terrible tweets, which I read earlier, in turn, with the sort of earnest intensity usually reserved for discussing something serious like, oh, I don't know, crime. I explained that the punch tweet was a serious point made with a joke. Men who enter women's spaces are abusers, and they need to be challenged every time. The punch in the bollocks bit was about the height difference between men and women, the bollocks being closer to punch level for a woman. Okay, so he's talking about women defending themselves, not Glinner punching these men dressed as women in women's spaces. Glinner wouldn't be in the women's washroom anyway because he's a man, and he's not a creep. So,
and he never said his advice was for men or for himself. He was giving advice to women.
That's right. Yeah. So the punch in the bollocks bit was about the height difference between men and women, the bollocks being closer to punch level for a woman defending her rights, and certainly not a call to violence. And then he puts in parentheses, not one of my best, as one of the female officers said, we're not that small. But anyway, I mean, but I think I don't even think he's explaining himself all that well here, because it's not very easy for a woman to defend herself physically against a man. So I think one of the only possible ways that you could, because if you punched a man in the face and you're a woman, it wouldn't really do much. But if you punch him in the balls, you might shock him or hurt him enough that you could escape. And at least that would be sort of a form of punishment that would hurt him a bit, I suppose.
Well, it's self-defense. It lets you get to safety. And it's not like Graham Linehan invented this advice to women. This is something that dads have been telling their daughters from time immemorial, that if you're in a situation and you can't get away from a man, go for the testicles. That's their weak spot. This is not new advice. Now, self-defense experts would say, learn to hit the kneecap, learn to go for the eyes. But he's not saying anything new or out of the ordinary in terms of men's self-defense advice for women.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what anybody would expect a woman to do in that kind of circumstance. Just let him at her and not fight back. Like, that's a really sick and disgusting thing to tell girls and women.
Mhm.
So he goes on, Graham Linehan goes on to say of this officer who was conducting the interrogation, he mentioned trans people. I asked him what he meant by that phrase. He responded and said, people who feel their gender is different than what was assigned at birth. I said, assigned at birth? Our sex isn't assigned. He called it semantics. I told him he was using activist language. Like, that's, I mean, for the police officers to be speaking in that way, I mean, it's just so unfair. It's like, you already have a bias. You've already decided, like, your job isn't to behave as an activist. Like he said, your job is not to arrest people over ideological differences. And that's what you're doing. Apparently, I think that they're admitting to doing that by using that kind of language and refusing to admit that they're using activist language. You know, people who are their gender is different than what was assigned at birth. Like, are you serious?
But you have to.
Do you not know what a man is and what a woman is as a police officer? You don't know who the perpetrator is in a rape case?
No, they don't anymore, because you have to remember that for the last 10 to 15 years, they have done training after training after training where the speech enforcers have come in and told them how to think and how to speak. And these have been mandatory trainings on gender. This has been happening in medicine, in law enforcement, in academia, and it's all over the Anglosphere. At least it's probably happening even in French countries as well. And these police officers are so propagandized by it that they're probably punished if they don't speak in these terms, because this is the policy of their department. So we have lost the propaganda war a long time ago. It was won before we even knew we were in a war.
Yeah. I mean, at very least, yeah, I think I think almost everybody is defending him. I think there's very few who are taking the side of the cops. There was someone, the new leader of the Greens, Zach Polanski, who said that the police were right, the leader of the Green Party. I mean, if this happened in Canada, I think all the politicians would certainly be supportive. You know, at least the NDP and the Liberal Party. He said, so he was talking to this Polanski guy, speaking to presenters on BBC Newsnight. Polanski fumed, I'm reading from The Spectator here, that Linehan's tweets about transgender people were totally unacceptable. Like, did he even read the tweets? Like, what are you talking about? Totally unacceptable. Give me a break. They're completely acceptable. There's nothing unacceptable about these tweets. You're insane. So he says, I accept that people in politics, we get a lot of abuse, but we shouldn't get lots of abuse. I recognize that women get more abuse than I do. For instance, I get a lot of anti-Semitic abuse. I'm one of the few Jewish leaders in British politics. Today, a Muslim man was elected as my deputy leader, Mohsen Ali. I've seen the amount of Islamophobia he gets. We also know that for all those groups, trans people have been in the sights of the nastiness and toxicity for a long time. I accept proportionality of police response as a conversation we need to have. I think it was proportionate to arrest him.
I can't believe
people in the UK are insane. Anybody who would support this is literally insane.
I just can't believe I was ever a member of the Green Party. This is so hideous. I think, yeah, they're insane. They really are not. They don't believe in free speech. They don't understand how this could in any way ever affect them if their beliefs become the verboten beliefs of the society. So crazy. But how much power does that dude have? Like, how represented? Okay, got it.
I shouldn't say none. That's not necessarily true, but I don't think he has a ton of power. I I mean, I think maybe he has power in terms of the public conversation.
Mhm.
I mean, the Green Party in the UK, I think, is more prominent than the Green Party in the US or in Canada. Do you think that's accurate? I mean, I'm not like an
Oh, I
expert
think
on
that's
UK
true.
politics, but it seems like it to me.
Right. Well,
So
I
they
remember,
probably do have a bit, I guess they have a bit of power.
right. And I mean, Venice Allen was kicked out of the Green Party for her gender critical views quite some time ago. I mean, that was over a decade ago that that they purged the TERFs from the organization.
And Labor, right?
And well, Labor for sure, but they actually have some power.
Yeah.
And then who is right?
Matt Taibbi wrote a good article about what happened to Graham. And he pointed out that this is something that's actually pretty common or becoming more and more common in the UK. People getting arrested for tweets. And it's so concerning. He said, consider what the director of public prosecutions for England and Wales said in August 2024. The offense of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, not even if you tweet something that is considered to be insulting or abusive in a racist way, I guess, if you retweet that, this is crazy, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing the offense. So you didn't even say it, but if you retweet it, now you're also committing a crime. And we do have dedicated, what a waste of resources,
Right.
Jesus Christ. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media for racist tweets. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification, arrests, and so forth. So it's a really, really serious. People might think they're not doing anything harmful. They are, and the consequences will be visited upon them.
Terrifying. And this is in a country with a large and growing radical Islamist population where imams are saying on the public record that women should be stripped of their voting rights, that women should be stripped of like basically all rights to be in public if they're not completely covered, instructions on which women are the rapeable ones versus who's off limits to the men, on and on. Like there is so much literal like conspiratorial action happening in a growing huge population in that country that could lead to the disenfranchisement of half the population. And they have this growing rape problem, and men consistently are saying they didn't realize rape was illegal in this country because it's not illegal where they come from. None of that is being addressed by the police. None of that. Just women discussing why we don't like having men in our bathrooms.
Or people tweeting supposedly racist things. Like this is not your job. It should not be your job as a police officer to scour social media for racist tweets or tweets saying that men aren't women. I mean, that's insane. What is happening over there?
Well, I think that we just need to say it, that what we're witnessing looks a lot like what's happened to other indigenous populations when they're being conquered. The demoralization, the use of rape as a political tool for demoralization and for terrorization, the demographic shift that's happening. Like this is happening. It's okay to say what is actually happening demographically in the UK. And it's a terrible situation. It's really looking like things are going to be very different in that country within the next few decades.
I mean, they already are really different. Like the population, the demographics have changed so substantially. There's no going back.
No, it would take something very intense and right now in terms of our culture, distasteful rising up in the men of England to turn this around. And I don't think that's going to happen. And
the exact same thing is happening in Canada. I should say. You know, our immigration rates have skyrocketed. And there's actually kind of rather suddenly a rather large percentage of the population that's Muslim now on account of very recent immigrants from Muslim countries. And yeah, I mean, it's like you can't just send people back.
No,
the Canadian government is not going to. They're not going to do that in the U.S. So it's sort of like you've already really done this to yourself, and I don't really think there's much turning it around at this point.
Right. No, I don't know. I don't know what it would take, but it wouldn't be good. And I do, that young girl who was just arrested for defending herself and her sister from an immigrant who was filming them in a very intimidating way and wouldn't stop following her. And she was arrested for brandishing.
She got arrested?
I thought she was arrested as a 12-year-old.
Oh, I saw that video. I didn't realize she was arrested for that. It was very scary, but it was really impressive that those girls were defending themselves in the way that they were. They seemed quite young.
Yeah. And think of the level of terror and trauma those girls have to even carry those weapons and to behave the way they were behaving. They knew they were under threat. Whoever was filming them, it was an immigrant man filming them. And I don't know, he wouldn't stop following her. He was intimidating her, and he wanted to see her brandish the knife and yell so he could paint her as a racist and as a violent person, which this seems to be a tool of war of Islamists to make their enemies look like the baddies, right? To put children over their, put their war center under a school, and then it's like, oh, look, you just blew up a bunch of kids, to not defend their own women and children, but to make their enemies look bad is one of the first ways that that's a tool of war in that culture. And to me, that's what that looked like. He was intentionally trying to make her look like the perpetrator and make her look like the aggressor.
Yeah, you're right. She was charged. That's crazy. So what happened was the 14-year-old girl who was charged was with her 12-year-old sister. They confronted a man who was harassing them in a nearby parking lot, asking for their phone numbers and groping them. And so the video that was circulating online was showing the older girl, who's 14 years old, holding a machete. The younger one was holding an axe. And the 14-year-old was arrested instead of the man who was sexually harassing and apparently groping them.
Groping them, harassing them, would not stop filming them, coming after them after they were saying, leave us alone, leave us alone. Very similar to the men in our women's spaces. Like the Darvo going on here of reversal of victim and offender is so similar. These two groups of men have very similar tactics. And, it's interesting. People are like, oh, well, Islam doesn't support LGBT. No, they support T, though. I mean, Iran has been at the forefront of transgender surgeries and mainstreaming transgenderism for decades. The state will kill you for being gay, but happily pay for your sex change operation because that doesn't upset the gender apple cart there. Like this is male supremacy working hand in hand, and the UK is kind of ground zero right now for this.
Everyday Taekwondo says, Meghan, look up Brad West's recent comments. I don't know who Brad West is. The mayor of Port Coquitlam? Okay. I don't know what that's about. Why don't you tell me what that's about? Everyday Taekwondo. Matt Taibbi tried to get a hold of somebody at the Met, the London's Metropolitan Police, to ask questions about Graham Linehan's arrest. And yesterday, the press officer that he reached told him, Matt, that she couldn't provide any information about the case, including the law Linehan is accused of breaking because we have been in the middle of operational logistics. He's like, I don't know what that means. And then this morning, so Wednesday morning, he got an answer in a statement from Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, who defended his officers, but communicated that he's clearly tired of constantly enforcing the UK's censorship laws. Good. That's good. So he said there were reasonable grounds to arrest Linehan under the country's Public Order Act, which dictates that a threat to punch someone from a protected group, men in women's change rooms, that's a protected group, perverts, group of perverts,
right,
which dictates that sorry, go ahead.
Men who say their women are a protected class, but women are not. It's okay to say punch TERFs, but it's not okay to say punch a man who's in the women's room who says he's a woman.
Trying to sexually harass a girl or a
woman.
Right. So the country's Public Order Act, which dictates that a threat to punch someone from a protected group could be an offense. I understand, this is the Rowley speaking, I understand the concern caused by such incidents given differing perspectives on the balance between free speech and the risks of inciting violence in the real world. Rowley says officers are in an impossible position given the UK's laws. Yeah, okay, fair enough. And makes clear he wants officers to deal with things more important than policing toxic culture wars and debates. Most reasonable people would agree that genuine threats of physical violence against an identified person or group should be acted upon by officers. Such actions can and do have serious and violent real-world implications. But when it comes to lesser cases where there is ambiguity in terms of intent and harm, policing has been left between a rock and a hard place by successive governments who have given officers no choice but to record such incidents as crimes when they're reported. Then they are obliged to follow all lines of inquiry and take action as appropriate. I mean, that's a fair point. Like they work for the government and these are the laws. They're supposed to enforce the laws, so they are doing their jobs. He goes on to say, I don't believe we should be policing toxic culture wars and debates, and officers are currently in an impossible position. I have offered to provide suggestions to the Home Office on where the law and policy should be clarified. Greater clarity and common sense would enable us to limit the resources we dedicate to tackling online statements to those cases creating real threats in the real world. If agreed, we could be ready to test new approaches quickly within a matter of weeks. An immediate way of protecting our officers from the situation we find ourselves in today, we would be putting in place a more stringent triaging process to make sure. Triaging. I was like, I think I said that word wrong. Yeah. Didn't want to think about it too hard.
Medical term.
Like, this might take me a while.
Yeah. What's the most important thing we need to address? Like put this like as the last, like that's not important.
Yeah, like he's saying that like resources for this kind of crime should be dedicated to really the most serious cases, which would be, again, like a direct threat of violence. Like if Graham had said, hey, per individual person that I'm speaking to, I'm going to punch you in the balls, and that would be a direct threat of violence.
Yeah.
But that's not
right. No, that's not what he said at all. He was advising women on how to defend themselves against men in our spaces. And I just, yeah, this is crazy. But like you, I think this might be a good thing in the long run. Like the more you expose what's actually happening, the more normies are just fed up with this. Like this is, I think in so many ways it's over. We're not in 2015 anymore where they can just kick you off the internet and completely silence you if you disagree with this. And it's no longer as dangerous to speak out, at least here in the United States. But I do think even in the UK, the tide has turned quite a bit. They had that Supreme Court ruling. And like Mary Kate Delvey's work, just listen to what the trans activists say, just read their words, expose them, that it's really clear that this is a misogynist, mentally ill, violent movement that, has sacramental mutilation of children as one of its primary goals. Like this, people can see what's going on. It's happening.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think this is going to fly, but I mean, so the law I think that he's referring to, again, they didn't refer to a specific law, but the main problem here, and this is why things have changed so quickly and why all of a sudden all these people are being arrested or charged for tweets, is because of the 2023 Online Safety Act, which makes it illegal to cause non-trivial psychological or physical harm to a likely audience.
Right. And these people are offended by anything that doesn't agree 100% with their worldview. So that leaves that law open to really broad interpretation. Psychological harm.
Well, and I mean, the Liberal Party in Canada was trying to pass a very similar law recently. They haven't brought it up again of late, but I suspect that they might at some point. I think there was pushback against the bill, so they're probably rethinking some aspects of it. But what they wanted to do with the proposed Online Harms Act, Bill C-63, was to amend the Canadian Human Rights Act to specify that posting hate speech online qualifies as discrimination. It also grants individuals, or it would grant individuals, I should say, the ability to file anonymous, this is just so silly, anonymous complaints. Like, so if you can file a complaint against any individual you want in Canada for, something they posted on X or on Facebook, and drag them through a human rights tribunal, and the person will never even know who is accusing them. And you could potentially be jailed, or you could be fined up to $50,000. You could be put on house arrest. Again, based on something that is considered to be hateful that you posted on social media. And not only that, they had included in the bill a mechanism that would allow for peace bonds, including house arrest, to be issued to individuals who someone believes may engage in hate speech at some point in the future. So you're literally being charged with pre-crime and thought crime.
Right, because you watched our live stream. That's evidence of potential pre-crime. Oh my gosh. Are they taking Graham's passport away? Can he leave the country?
I don't know.
Wow.
He ended up in the hospital because of a heart condition, because of all this stress. Really high.
Yeah. This couldn't.
Poor guy. Like, Graham has been through hell. He's been through hell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about this. Yeah.
I know. And he had nothing to gain. He's not a woman. He just is a man who couldn't stand the insanity and misogyny of this and needed to speak out. He couldn't not speak out about it because it was so crazy and so offensive to him. He had a lot to lose and nothing to gain from this, because men don't really lose much other than, it's an offense to all of our psychology and psyches to have to play this game and to have to spout lies. And I don't want to say that's trivial, but in terms of safety and sports opportunities and dignity, the men don't really lose much in this issue. So he's a hero.
Yeah, and he's just been relentless. He suffered a divorce as a result of all this. He lost all of his work, and he was supposed to do Father Ted the Musical, that was canceled. He can't work in the UK. It's been pointed out by a number of people, like, he's not even a British citizen. He's Irish.
He's Irish,
they
right?
arrested him in the UK over a UK law. And he's not even a Brit. Like, this could happen to anyone. Nigel Farage spoke about this today. It was really great. I tweeted that also, but he pointed out, like, anybody from the US, he was speaking to Americans, but also anybody from Canada could show up at Heathrow airport and be arrested for their tweets.
Oh, that's so crazy.
On account of a British law, you know.
Well, you know, and I wonder if that will happen, or if there still is, you know, a British reverberation that they believe they still own and govern Ireland, even though it's been over 100 years since the revolution. But that the fact that he's an Irish citizen, non-Northern Ireland citizen, an Irish citizen, tweeted these from the United States, tweeted these statements from the United States, and was arrested in Heathrow is so chilling. That's just, are you afraid to travel to London?
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid to travel to Canada.
Well, Canada for sure.
I mean, I'm afraid to travel. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to go to England. I mean, this is terrifying to me. Ireland's not much better. They proposed that legislation that the cops could search your phone and it would be a crime to have memes stored on your phone that were hateful. Right. That you hadn't even distributed. You just have them on your phone. So there definitely is the same totalitarian bent happening in Ireland, but that I keep hoping our people will rise up against it. The Irish have a history of being feisty, as the Scots do. So I'm hoping that it won't get worse there, but the UK feels like it's gone.
Yeah, for sure. So, sorry, I just want to correct myself on Graham's health issue that he experienced. So, while he was being interrogated by the Met, a nurse came in to check on him and found his blood pressure was over 200, which he says is stroke territory. He was escorted to the hospital. The doctors suggested the high blood pressure was stress-related, combined with long-haul travel and lack of movement. Graham writes, I feel it may have been a contributing factor that I have now spent 8 years being targeted by trans activists working in tandem with police in a dedicated, persistent harassment campaign because I refuse to believe that lesbians have cocks.
Good for him. Oh.
So he was released on bail. He's not allowed to go on X. That was the deal.
He's not allowed to go on X. I'm glad he wrote what he wrote, and I enjoyed reading about his discussion with the police. But I do want to point out that you shouldn't talk to the police. If you're in a situation like this, don't talk to the police. Ask for a lawyer. Keep your mouth shut, because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So I'm not going to tell Graham what to do, but I do want to put this out to other TERFs amongst us. Don't talk to the police if you're in this situation.
Okay, that's helpful advice, because I would probably forget, because I love talking.
Me too. I have to remind myself.
I'm like, don't talk.
Tattoo it on my hands. Don't talk to cops. Don't talk to cops. It's especially if you're under investigation. Do not talk to them. Ask for a lawyer. Say you need to, they can talk to your lawyer.
I want to share with you guys what Nigel Farage said, because I thought it was very good. He was in Washington speaking about this. So again, speaking to Americans. Sorry, this is...
and we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona, and months later he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. Armed police, not a big deal in the USA, a very big deal in the United Kingdom. 5 of them. And he was arrested and taken away for questioning. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like. It is a potentially big threat to tech bosses, to many, many others. This legislation we've got will damage trade between our countries, threaten free speech across the West because of the knock-on rolled-out effects of this legislation from us or from the European Union. So I've come today as well to be a klaxon, to say to you, don't allow, piece by piece, this to happen here in America. And you would be doing us and yourselves and all freedom-loving people a favor if your politicians and your businesses said to the British government, you've simply got this wrong. At what point did we become North Korea? Well, I think the Irish comedy writer found that out 2 days ago at Heathrow Airport. This is a genuinely worrying, concerning, and shocking situation. And I thank you for the opportunity to come here today.
Thank you, Mr.
You know, I wish that any Canadian politician would speak out like this.
Explain to me exactly who Nigel Farage is in the UK government? Like,
I'm not an expert on
I don't know.
UK politics, but he is, oh Lord, I did have some notes on this somewhere. He has been the Member of Parliament for Clacton. Am I saying that right? Probably not. And leader of Reform UK since 2024. He's pretty important.
Somebody said he spearheaded Brexit. Well, that's
Right,
cool.
that's
Remember
right.
the propaganda around Brexit. Yeah, and they were right. Brexit was the right thing to do. The EU was a terrible idea. Losing everybody turning over their currencies to a central bank was a terrible idea. Anybody who knows anything about history should have known that. And it's also just a tragedy in terms of cultural loss. Like, think of like the Greek lira was the oldest currency in the world. It had been the same currency in circulation for over 2,000 years. The EU was an awful idea. The UK trying to get out was a good idea. Brexit passed, but they've never had the political will to actually implement it.
Do you know who Scott Thompson is from Kids in the Hall?
No, tell me what happened there. I know Kids in the Hall. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like a Canadian comedy sketch show that we all watched in the 90s. So I never know if Americans are familiar or not. Very funny.
I've watched it a few times. I know it's funny, but I don't know the names of the comedians.
So that's okay. They're Canadians. So
yeah.
Scott Thompson was one of them. So he tweeted, "Today I stand with Graham Linehan," which is pretty amazing for a Canadian, especially a Canadian in the arts. Like, that's just unheard of. Like, I'm trying to think if anyone else in the Canadian art scene. I mean, I think there have been some Canadian comedians who have challenged this kind of thing and challenged woke stuff in general.
Well, he's a comedian, right?
Yeah.
That's great. This is great. And I think the Rogan interview could not have happened at a better time right before this. And this, it's waking up a lot of people. And then a lot of like liberal normies who just follow the gospel of NPR have no idea this is happening. Or if they do, they just know a bad man was arrested for saying bad things. There's still this unfortunately large subset of the US population that refuses to acknowledge the thought policing and the danger of this issue. Yeah. And then comments, Troubled Child points out Scott Thompson is gay also. So it's sort of like extra significant because so many, unfortunately and oddly, a lot of, gay men have been on board with trans ideology and trans activism. Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people in general have been convinced that this is exactly the same as that it's like a gay rights issue, or that it's the same as the movement for gay rights, which it's not.
No, it's profoundly homophobic at its core.
Yeah. So I think you're right about the Rogan episode really happened at the perfect time, and I'm so glad that Rogan discovered him. It was a really great episode. For those who haven't listened, definitely listen to it. It's awesome. Great. I mean, Graham is such a compelling, funny guy, and his memory is amazing. Like, did you listen to the episode?
I listened to the whole thing. I couldn't stop. I loved it.
Like, I just couldn't believe like all the details that he remembered.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I can't remember, you know, his memory for this whole history of like trans sanity is great.
I really wish that I remembered. And the places that I counted on to archive it have been swept from the internet. Like Gallus Mag, you can't find any of that. Even Kathy Brennan's wiped all of her gender trender stuff that where I was counting on those sites to keep the archive. And I wish I could remember the insanity. So I thought he did a great job with that. I really appreciated that he gave a lot of credit to women. I liked it that afterwards he really spoke up and was like, I didn't mention Genevieve Gluck enough. Her work is so important. He really tried to correct the record and point people toward her work after the interview when a lot of eyes were on him. I think Graham is a great fighter in this battle, in this war that we're in. And I hope he doesn't die of a heart attack because of all the stress he's under.
Don't say that. No, God.
I know we have to have to like whatever you do, however you phrase it, like pray for him, send him good vibes, surround him in love, juju him up like this.
He suffered cancer through all this too. He suffered a divorce. He fought cancer and lost so many friends,
right?
Colleagues, work, everything. It's just been horrible for him. He's been through hell and he deserves everything in the world. And actually, good news is Rob Schneider just tweeted this today. He's so funny. I'd like to thank the flatulent and utterly incompetent British government for the free promotion of our studio, Friendly Fire Studio, and our Graham Linehan's newest TV show, Tenure. Filming begins this fall. Stay tuned. So I knew that Graham had a new project in the works with Andrew Doyle, but I hadn't realized what it is or that it was in connection with Rob Schneider. But I'm very happy and excited for them. And I hope to be able to visit them in America sometime soon, actually, Graham and Andrew.
I hope that he can come back. It's just crazy. I really hope that they have not taken his right to travel away and haven't confiscated his passport. Yeah,
Brian,
I mean, really.
Come on, Brian says, sorry to interrupt. Come on, Brian says, Meghan kind of hot sometimes. Sometimes.
Right.
I look the same in this video every week, actually.
And you are like literally hot. It's very hot down there right now.
I am so hot. I'm so sweaty. And people keep pointing out to me that they're like, your face is really sweaty, Meghan. I'm like, I know. I swear to God, I'm the sweatiest person in the entire town. I'm not exact. I sweat. Maybe I have some kind of problem, but I sweat. I feel that I sweat more than normal people. But I also feel that this is what is like keeping me looking youthful in my old age, is all the sweating.
It's like 95% humidity down there. Like your sweat cannot evaporate. Where I live, like we don't even notice we're sweating because there's no humidity. It just like it actually works the way it's supposed to, that it's an evaporative cooling system for the body. Where we live, the sweat just accumulates.
Yeah. Anyway, back to
the topic. Yeah. So I can't help but be angry at all of the mostly men in the Democratic Party or the liberals here in the US like pivoting right now because they feel the tide turning. And I feel like it's dangerous because they're not fully turfing, right? I
just don't trust them. You can't trust these people. You can't trust people who said that men were women. And then, I don't care if you're speaking out now, even people like Pierre Poilievre, I like the guy, and I really wish that the Conservatives had won the federal election in Canada. I think that we would be better off in Canada for sure. But he's been speaking out against gender identity laws and ideology of late. But when he was running, he said shit. He didn't say anything about it, and we were all just begging him to. And I think he would have done better in the election if he'd really doubled down and at least been, the PPC's always been against gender identity ideology, Maxime Bernier, which is awesome, but they don't have a seat. And the Conservatives had a good chance of winning. And I think that a lot of Canadians do care about this issue, despite the fact that apparently many more don't or are too stupid to understand how ridiculous and harmful this ideology and these laws are. But I think that if he'd spoken up against at least the transing of kids, you know, and against men and women's sports, I mean, like, I just think, like, there's enough normal people who've caught on to how crazy this all is that I think that, I think that Putty would have done better in the election had he said something instead of waiting until he lost the election to start speaking out against this. I was like, what? Why are you doing this now?
Right.
Lost. Like, now we're stuck with the freaking Liberal Party again. They've ruined the country for 10 years.
Right. It's it's really upsetting. The one that upsets me the most is Gavin Newsom, who's pretending to pivot on this issue while still suing the federal government to keep convicted rapists locked up in jail cells with women. If anyone is not enraged by that, they just hate women. The thought of an incarcerated woman having to share a jail cell with a convicted male rapist is just, it's pure hatred of women to be okay with that. And he's defending that still legally. He's keeping the boys and girls sports. He won't back down on that. He continues to do the enraging things while speaking out of the other side of his mouth, saying, oh, we all know this has gone too far. And of course, people have a right to be upset about men and women's sports, or, you know, that of course males have advantages, but doing nothing to correct it, nothing to change the policies. And I live in fear of him becoming the next president of the United States. Though I do think this is a winning issue for the Republicans. They just keep pulling this out. People are sick of this. People hate being told to lie. Americans in particular do not like having this stuff forced on us. This was such an enormous issue in Trump getting elected. And they know, the Republicans know this is a winning issue for them. That's why the Democrats know it too, and they're trying to pivot a bit. But they're trying to compromise. There is no compromise. You can't give males the legal right to be females without having males in women's jail cells, and having males in women's locker rooms, and having males in women's sports. It's a zero-sum game. We either have sex-based rights or we don't.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, if the law is you have the right to identify as a different sex, you know, like if the law is if a man can self-identify as a woman, then he's legally a woman. So of course he's allowed into women's prisons. In Canada, the whole reason that men are allowed into women's prisons. Sorry, I'm distracted by Emma, who appears to need to go out, and I'm worried she's going to pee on the floor. Please just wait 5 minutes, Emma.
It's a pee emergency.
I'll be right there, babe. Is because Justin Trudeau I think he was asked a question about men and women's prisons at a press conference in 2017. And he was like, yes, of course, you know, men who identify as women should be allowed to, these aren't his words, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Be allowed into women's prisons. And then that was that. And then, you know, all these disgusting, dangerous male predators, violent male criminals, rapists, pedophiles have been housed in women's prisons in Canada ever since. And the government and the media will not address it or acknowledge it's happening.
No, they won't. And there was just that case that Redux reported on, that a violent male at Rikers Island who says he's female, who was incarcerated with the women, beat up a woman, and then the woman was punished for misgendering him, for so-called misgendering, for calling him male. Like, she's the one who had punitive actions taken against her. This is the terrorism against incarcerated women. It's so horrible.
Please wait.
All right.
Sorry.
Should we wrap it up? There'll be more to talk about next week.
There sure will. Everybody pray for Graham Linehan. And all hail Graham Linehan. His Substack is the Glenner Report, I think. That's what the Glenner Update. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sure he'll be updating that, especially since he's not allowed to post on X while he's in the UK. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be here next Wednesday. I'm Meghan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and on X. I also upload these streams to Spotify, so you can just search Where Are All the Women? And I also upload them to my Substack, which is meganmurphy.ca. Mary Lou is on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton. Her website is enchantedfamilymedicine.com. Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great night. Thanks, Mary Lou.
Good to see you. See you next week.
Goodbye.